What do you think, Paul? Should we start 1 minute early and just get them ready for their classes that way?
Things are fast paced at WPI. You got to be ready.
Yeah. Just begin before you're ready. It's good advice. I guess it's 2 o'clock. So Christine, do you want me to give them a couple more minutes? I see we've got, they're coming in, we have 151 right now.
I can see folks coming in on a pretty regular clip. Maybe if we give them 1 minute and then.
Okay. And then we'll tell them if they missed the quiz and it was 10% of their grade. I see Kira has her cat for her picture. I actually thought about using Abby for my picture instead too, but.
How is Abby? I feel like I haven't seen her in forever.
She's doing well. She's a mature professional golden retriever now. She actually graduated last year. I had a letter of admission for her when she was a puppy. She was in the class of 2020. So.
Honors or no honors, Art?
No honors for Abby, I think.
That's okay, you know?
She never figured out that don't get on the sofa thing.
Yeah, that'll bring you down a few grades.
Yes, you got it.
All right. I think whenever you would like to start, you are more than welcome to do so.
Give it a go. Okay, now at this stage, I can't see if you are seeing my screen. I guess Christine or Paul, can you let me know if this is visible?
Looks good, Art.
Okay. So welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and start. My name is Art Heinricher. I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Studies and I'm a professor in the math department at WPI. So I'm the guy that looks like the picture on the upper left-hand side of your screen. Paul Riley is the Assistant Dean of Student Success and the Director of the Office of Academic Advising. We're going to lead you through a discussion about what you can expect in your first year at WPI. I'm going to present it from my goal is to present this in sort of two directions. One is, what can you expect from faculty? And the flip side is, what will faculty expect from you? We'll try to answer questions that you put into the chat. We may not get to them all today, but we will save them and try to get back to you. I do want to make one remark, and that is, as we're going through this presentation, there are a lot of people without face coverings. And I want to emphasize that no students were harmed in the making of this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Let me get my presentation to work. So maybe sort of two main themes running through the first part. You're living in the COVID world just like we are, and some things are completely different. A lot of things are completely different. So one thing I want to emphasize is, for example, if I can get the presentation to work here, you're not going to have any classes that look like the one on the left. You're not going to have a situation in which you've got a professor sitting in front of a room full of students. You will be meeting with your RA or a community advisor or other students, and you're going to have a mask, just like Sal. That's Sal Lombardo on the upper right-hand side. The important things are really unchanged, and that is the WPI commitment to a high-quality education. So I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Okay. So I want to emphasize that while I've said everything is different, the goals remain the same. The goals for every WPI student. You're going to become an expert, whether that's chemical engineering or biology or computer science. You're going to become an expert in that field, and you're going to be able to get the answers right. And this is about the courses you take, this is about the content of the courses, and this is about your major. Just as important, you're going to learn how to solve real problems. And what's really challenging about them is that they tend to live not in your major, they tend to be in between disciplines. And the challenge is not as much getting the answers right as it often is asking the right questions. This is what project-based learning is about. It's really more about projects, it's really more about learning. And the last thing that I want to emphasize is WPI has a motto, which is theory and practice. Now, this is not theory then practice. The approach of education here is not you take a lot of theoretical courses for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. And when you get that all behind you, you get to work on something real. We intentionally mix theory and practice throughout the curriculum. That means different things at different times. But if you're in a great problem seminar, you're looking at hard problems from the very beginning. Okay. I'll start off with one piece of advice. This was given by an inside advisor, by a faculty member to their student advisee several years ago. And she said, if you treat your classes like a full-time job, you will graduate in 4 years and you will graduate with high distinction. You will do very well. We expect you to succeed. You were admitted to WPI because we know you can succeed. The picture on the lower left side is what I hope to do in 2024 for 1,320 of you. And I hope that we can do it without masks and without gloves, and a high five as you cross the stage. Typical WPI fashion, I'm going to start with a quiz. And the quiz is, how many classes are you taking? Now, if we were sitting in front of each other, I would wait for somebody to answer that question, but I'm just going to forge ahead. The answer to the question is 6. It's not 3. You're taking 6 classes this semester. One of the problems that students often have in adapting to WPI is they're used to these really weird 13, 14, 15-week courses. You'll be talking to your friends back home that have gone to other schools that have those same 14-week schedules. And you'll be saying, what classes are you taking? And you will be having fewer classes in A-term than they will. But the workload you carry and the amount of effort you put into your classes, think about it as 6 courses, okay? So if you picture what you're doing in a 7-week term, on August 31st, we'll have our first day of classes. On October 16th, A-term will end. Okay, for 7 weeks, you'll have those 3 courses. You'll take 2 days off, and we will start up again. You'll have 3 courses, 3 different classes, and they'll run for 7 more weeks. I want to emphasize a couple of things here. One, at WPI, if you miss a few days for any reason, you miss a lot. This is also one place where, for the first time in my life, I can actually say something positive about COVID. Because of the way the faculty have been rebuilding their courses, anything you miss because you couldn't be there for the lecture is going to be recorded. You're going to be able to catch up. It's still serious. The point that I want to emphasize, though, is you've got resources now that you would not have had in the past, but still, if you're going to miss some classes, reach out to your advisor, reach out to your faculty, let them know. Don't wait. 7 weeks goes way too fast. 3 pieces of advice inside that. Number 1 is, you'll often find yourself in a situation where you don't feel ready to start, but you've got to learn to begin before you're ready. You've also got to learn to work a little bit every day, work in short bursts, a little bit every day, and communicate with your peers, with your TA, with your advisor, and with your faculty. Okay. I want to present this as sort of a danger sign or a warning. If you're looking at your course schedule, if you're looking at when you're required to be attached to a particular class, it will look pretty sparse, 14 or 15 hours maybe, okay? Okay, on the last slide I said treat your classes like a full-time job. There is no full-time job in the world that looks like the one on this screen. That's because the commitment around these courses, what you need to do to be successful, is a whole lot more than that. Basically, you should be scheduling your week so that you assume each of those classes is about 15 hours of effort every week. That's what it means to be working full-time. So in this chart, what I did is I expanded the Calc 1 and I expanded the physics and the GPS to include the time when you would be preparing for the class, include the time when you would be reviewing the class, include the time when you'd be visiting Zoom office hours. Schedule that. The other thing that's unusual this year is you're going to need to eat, and you're going to need to schedule those times. That's what's different, okay? You can't just walk down to the dining hall whenever you want to this year. You're going to have to figure out how to work that into your schedule. You're going to have to make reservations. The other thing that I want to emphasize is when you're building this schedule, make sure you schedule time for exercise, for downtime, for just pure socialization. Make it part of the schedule. Paul's going to say a little bit more in a couple of minutes about balance and how important that is, but I want to emphasize this. You know, I had the quote a minute ago from one of my favorite academic advisors, a quote from when the student government president did his welcome for the students a few years ago. One of the things he said stuck with me. He said, "I solved more mechanical engineering problems while I was exercising than I ever did in the library or at a desk." The point is, you start working on the problems, you plant the seeds, then you put it away, you go exercise, you go for a run, you go meet with some friends, maybe you take a nap, but you'll solve more problems that way when you're not really working on them than you had planned otherwise. Okay. We are putting together and making available additional tools to help you with that scheduling side. I'm just going to point to one here, and I'm going to circle it. There's a website, Virtual Learning, that you'll get access to very quickly, and it's going to have a collection of resources there. These have been designed and built starting basically in last D term when we had to go virtual. But the resources that were built there are useful all the time, whether you're on campus or not. Okay. There will also be, I'll just circle it here, a weekly newsletter called Just-in-Time Tips. One of the pieces inside that Just-in-Time Tips is going to be a weekly survey. We want your feedback, not specifically about courses maybe. You know, you should be going to your professor or your TA if you've got a question about a course. But if it's a higher level, general, you don't know exactly where to ask the question, we'll be collecting that in surveys every week. So please use that. We review that and we take it seriously. I want to say a couple of words now about the different approaches to courses you're going to see this term. And the faculty have been calling that TechFlex. Inside TechFlex, courses have basically three different types. One is online, one is hybrid, one is in person. Some classes are fully online. This is a situation where perhaps the faculty member has a health condition and they can't come to campus. The thing you need to look for here is if you're in a fully online course, make sure you understand how much of it is or what about it is synchronous, meaning when you have to be, if you have to be participating at certain times on certain days, and what about that class is asynchronous, which is completely flexible. You can do it any time. And different classes are taking different approaches. So if you asked me, you know, is this class synchronous or not? I can't answer that question. The only one who can is the professor. The vast majority of classes are in this hybrid mode. Hybrid means it's accessible both face-to-face or mask-to-mask and online. So we have students this fall who cannot come to campus. They can enroll in hybrid or online classes. It means also when you're in a class which is hybrid, there are going to be components of that which are both, as I said, mask-to-mask or in-person and online. You can use both those resources. But you are going to be working with students who are not on campus also. Finally, there are some classes which do demand that you come to campus. Most of these are labs. They're always mask to mask, but these are classes that you cannot complete online. So if you're one of the students that have decided you're going to be remote this fall, if you're registered for a class that is designated in person, you've got a problem. You're going to have to change your schedule. I want to emphasize that behind all this is still those two goals. You're going to become an expert and you're going to be prepared for project work. Okay. I want to emphasize that one point. Don't wait to ask for help. Okay. Faculty and teaching assistants, that's a good place to start. Start that before there's a problem. Don't wait till you've got an issue that you don't know how to deal with. Just make sure that the faculty, make sure the TA knows who you are. You're going to have an advising team that kicks off immediately. It's the Insight team. It includes a faculty or Insight advisor. It includes a community advisor, which is a peer, which is another student, basically helping you to navigate WPI. And it will be your RA, someone on the residence hall floor. The goal here is to start making connections. Making those connections is the most important predictor of success in college. I also wanted to point out that picture I showed earlier. That's an RA. So you may not recognize him, but that's Sal Lombardo. He's the RA. I think he's down in our brand new Hampton Inn, also called Further East. I also want to emphasize that each of you has a designated academic advisor in the Insight program, but you also have an extra advisor assigned in the Office of Academic Advising. That's in Paul Riley's staff. That's a backup that can help you with questions, mostly about logistics and registration, things like that. When you officially declare your major, you'll get a new academic advisor in that major in December. So there'll be a transition done at that time. Okay. One other piece of support, and this is sort of a level up above, and that is if you don't know who to ask, if it's a question that doesn't come out of your class and you don't know if it's really an academic advising question, you can email virtual@WPI. You can also email undergraduate studies at WPI. I get those emails, Deborah Boucher, Katie Elms, April Miro. I don't necessarily know all the answers, but I know who to ask, and we can track that down for you. I want to finish off with something that I like to do. It's a WPI tradition. Back when WPI was still black and white and only had 2 buildings, the standard welcome, and this is actually standard for almost every science and engineering program in the country, was to get the students together and say, look left, look right. One of you will be gone by next year. That was because 1/3 of students just didn't make it. They dropped out after 1 year in science and engineering. The message there was this is a competition and only the fittest are going to survive. And I said, that's the ancient welcome. Welcome today is different. Look left, look right, look up, look down. I'm assuming that some of this stuff is happening on Zoom calls. These are the people who will teach you the most. You'll learn a lot from faculty. You'll learn a lot in Zoom lectures. You'll learn a lot online watching lectures. You'll learn a lot in face-to-face meetings. But when you really own your learning is when you sit down with your peers and you struggle through the materials and you explain the problems to each other. It doesn't happen when you listen at a lecture. It happens when you work through the material and you can explain it to somebody else. The point that I want to emphasize, and this is core at WPI, this is a collaboration. You're going to do far more than survive. You're going to thrive. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Paul. Paul, do you want me to continue to advance it? Can you just take over the speaking?
I'll do the speaking if you want to advance the slides, and if I'm going too slow or fast, you just speed me up. So
I will do that. Just tell me when to advance. You ready?
Yeah, I got it. So thank you, Dean Heinricher, and I just want to say congratulations, of course, to everyone on the call in regards to your successes so far, and certainly getting accepted to an institution like WPI means that you have done incredible things in your life, and we hope and expect that you'll do those both at WPI and beyond. So I want to talk just for a few minutes about some of the things that we actually will be the same, and some of the things that go into kind of this holistic view of you being successful during your time at WPI. So, as we think about success, and certainly there's a community of people from faculty members to staff members across the institution that are going to help you in different ways. But success is not necessarily all about academic success. It is certainly one component of it, and one that you have, like I said, been very successful up to now. So we want you to be successful, and probably the most important thing is your well-being. So if you want to advance the slide, Art, now. And so well-being is a number of different things, and it gets into your health, your physical health, your mental health. We have designed a curriculum at WPI, obviously with STEM-based education, humanities, social science, business courses. We also have physical education as a degree requirement, and students will take 4 courses in PE over your time at WPI, because we know that physical health is very, very important. And so the other aspect is sleep. Every student is a little bit different in what you may need to be successful, but this idea that you're going to come to college, you're going to go 4 hours every night and continue to be successful either in the classroom or kind of in your personal life will be a struggle. So we want students to get to what I'll talk about, kind of this 8-8-8 formula. So roughly around 8 hours of sleep is recommended and that could be anything. It could be maybe it's 12 to 8 or it's 10 to 6. People are very, very different, and everyone's different in when they're most successful in studying and in interacting with others. I mentioned the importance of exercise. We've got varsity sports. We've got a lot of PE courses. I think we've added some virtual options. We're doing that this fall, so you'll be able to do things in a remote way and learn about a number of different things, if it's yoga or if it's doing appropriate eating. And that is going to be certainly, it'll look different in regards to the process this campus about how to schedule your meals, but you still have to eat, and we hope that you'll eat combinations of the right stuff. We have nutritionists, dietitians on staff that can help you kind of plan that out, making sure that we have the food that you enjoy, that obviously that you both like to eat, but also take into account kind of any health and safety. So 888 is a guide, 24 hours in a day, and so roughly 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of academic work, and that might be a combination of lectures. It could be some tutoring that you set up, as well as individual study time or connection with your professor during office hours. And then you've got 8 hours to eat, to shower, to interact with your peers. Maybe it's walking across campus. These things remain the same, right? So these kind of formulas of success remain consistent. We try to advise students to be consistent over the long term, because maybe there's a time that you do have to ramp up your study and you're doing a lot more, 10 or 12 hours in a day, or you sleep a little bit more because you're tired. But on average, this is a rough guide that if you can do these, you will be successful. Your well-being, you'll feel better, your mental health will be in a better shape, and you'll probably perform better in the classroom as well, because you'll be able to focus on your coursework. Next slide. Of course, academics, a huge change, right? So it's certainly different, right? Many of you were probably online in your last semester, maybe all of you in some way, and you're transitioning to maybe some online, some in person. So in that regard, the transition will not be as different than you may have been used to. The difference is that you're attending WPI, and the rigor of courses is elevated. You should expect that it should be, but you are ready for this challenge. You get admitted to WPI because you've been successful. Our retention rate, 95, 96% of students come back after the first year. They love it, they're successful, and they do well, and they develop relationships, obviously, with their peers, with staff, with faculty, because it is a community of support for you, and all our work is designed to help you as an individual and be successful. So, but pausing for a reality check is really important, because you probably had the vast majority of grades were A's that you saw in high school, and you may get a B, you may get a C. We have resources to help you, and those might be fine grades because you may have learned a lot in the classroom. It's not just about this external grade, it's about the learning, and that's why our grading scale, I would say, is pretty flat. We have A, B, C, and what we call NR, which stands for no record. And so if you struggle in a course, you will not be penalized in the sense of it always being on your transcript. And so one of the great things about WPI is that grading scale. In addition to, obviously, we have certainly strong STEM-based courses at WPI, but we have a humanities and arts requirement that's 6 courses. You can do a variety of things, whether it's theater, art, history, languages, as well as social science courses. So we want you to learn outside of your major and learn in a variety of different ways. Maybe it's taking a grad course, maybe it's taking a business course in entrepreneurship. As Dean Heinricher said, the more you can make these connections outside of your major is where you're going to get to that kind of sweet spot of education, and where you'll have the most impact with the projects that you will do. And certainly it is one of the hallmarks of the WPI education is those strong project-based experiences academically. I work with students, and I work with students, that are on this call, and I've seen a lot of familiar names. Already thinking about two majors or a minor or a grad degree, and those are things that we can certainly absolutely help you with as advisors, as faculty members. For now, thinking about one major, and one will do, in your 4 years. The design of the curriculum is around one major, it's one degree, and you will have plenty to learn within that major. So, but if you are interested in other kinds of activities, whether they're academic or they're co-curricular, even things like co-op experiences, we can assist with that in academic advising. So for now, obviously you're setting up your schedule for the fall. My team, we have 8 professional staff advisors, and I know that they've been in touch with you this summer. And I know I've been in touch with a lot of students even in the last few days, because we're continually working on your schedule. It will get to be finalized before the term begins. So you may be hearing from us about a calculus course or a physics course. We will be continually working with you to help you obviously finalize your schedule for a term, make sure it's all set, and help you transition successfully into WPI. And we have famous 9 words. I don't think we've changed the 9 words. They've been around for some time. Go to class, do the work, and ask for help. And I think obviously go to class is there may be a physical classroom that you're going to, or it may be online, or it may be a mix of classes. We want you to attend as much lectures, maybe it's the conferences, labs, as possible on your schedule. So utilize that time wisely. Like Dean Heinricher said, it may look different because you may only have, as we're working on calculus, for example, it might have changed from 1 or 2 hours a week. It might just be on your schedule, but there's 4 or 5 hours of possible asynchronous material that the faculty will let you know about that you still have to work through. And that's the most important thing, is creating a schedule that's going to work for you. We always advocate for doing it earlier in the day, because a lot of the great social things, the clubs, the organizations, meet in the evenings, hanging out with your roommate in the evenings, is going to be the time that obviously we want you to connect with others. So do the work. Of course, you got to do the work, right? Whatever that may be, is not just completing homework assignments, but it's also reaching out to a faculty member. They may have office hours online. It may be working with tutoring to help you understand the material, but getting it done, creating a schedule, knowing when the deadlines are, that's obviously very, very important. One of the things that I think our students have done incredibly well, and certainly I've been at WPI 8 years, is asking for help. It has just ramped up exponentially, which is an incredible thing, because I think it can be difficult when you're really successful in high school. You may be the one that was leading the project, getting A's. At times, it may not have felt that difficult for you. You might just have worked through it easily, got the homework done. You are going to face a new challenge. And so this is why we have advisors. This is why we have faculty and your peers. The most important aspect is asking your peers for help, which can sometimes be a challenge. But reach out to your friends on your floor, reach out to people in the class, set up maybe in-person study groups, virtual, whatever, obviously the format will work, and create those connections, because that's what's going to really help you. So don't be shy about, contacting an advisor or contacting any member of our community. One of the, of course, the things that you go to college is not just to study, right? It's certainly important, but the connections that I made in college are the connections that I have to this day, right? 20 years out, the people that maybe I was on a sports team with, or I made those connections with, making friends. It's an opportunity to make a completely different or add to an addition group of friends that you did not have. So, and you'll do that this maybe naturally. It might happen that you connect with your roommate very well, or you've got to sometimes make an effort, right? You join a club that you've got an interest in, and you make connections that way. So we want you to make connections and make friends with people that hopefully will certainly last in your time at WPI and beyond, right? Coming back as an alum, connecting with a group, whether it's in a fraternity, a sorority, a sports team, you're in the cheese club, whatever it is, right? These are the connections that are probably the most fun ones that you'll have. So when we work with admissions and students getting into college, right? You might have had 5 things, and you were on the varsity team, and you were on all these organizations to get into college, because sometimes these are the expectations. But join 1 or 2 organizations, at least to start. Don't overwhelm yourself with joining too many, even though 100 of them may look appealing. Start with 1 or 2 as you transition. Maybe you'll join something that you loved and maybe it's for you, or not, and you decide to switch to a few different organizations later. So if you can develop this kind of network experience, you may be interested in taking leadership roles in these organizations later in college. And that's how connecting with a couple of organizations, maybe it's something that is a professional, and then maybe it's something that is just completely for fun, where you're just going and connecting and doing something that's a passion of yours. So, Art, was there any organizations that you were in college that you were passionate about?
I was a fine arts major, so I spent a lot of time, in the photography lab. So I was also going to point to the Lego Club. That's probably one of the most active organizations on campus right now. So
yeah, we have over 200 or clubs and organizations. And the great thing about WPI, and as you come to campus, and I hopefully that you've chosen WPI because you have found your people. And so, you walk across the quad, and you hear students talking about their classes, right? You hear them talking about a robotics engineering class, and you look up at the recreation center and you see students ballroom dancing, and and it's this eclectic mix of people and interests that students have, is where you really learn academically and you make those connections. And so, and the fall may look different. There may be a lot of virtual options to connect with these organizations, but make the effort. Everyone is kind of in the same situation. And so the great thing is you will still be able to make these connections going forward. And of course, personal growth, right, is, we want you to be different than when you enter to when you leave. And different does not mean a completely different person. You may have the same values, the same, obviously, experience that you had, but we want you to grow in those 4 years. We want you to explore new ideas, maybe take a challenging course outside your major that is a risk. Meet new people, introduce yourself. Some of that may end up failing. That's okay. This is what college is about. It's about failing. It's about picking yourself up. It's about moving on, and it's about lots of success as well. So, one of the things that I love to do, and I really have to be thoughtful about doing it right now, because the days are so packed with work, and I've got 3 kids and doing all these things, is don't overschedule yourself and take time to do nothing. Maybe it's only 15 minutes. Just space out. Because if you schedule everything and it's really kind of intentional, there is social things that may be an outlet and release, but there's also a time that you just really consciously think about not having this next step. What do I need to do next? What do we need to do next? And bring yourself down. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a day, but try to be conscious about taking the time for yourself, whatever that may look like. So, and ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I do differently? Be really good at realistic self-appraisal. And so, be a scientist, right? An engineer. Did I do something? Did it work? Did it not? Do I need to change? Do I need to ask people for support? What is that going to look like? The community. You come to a small private institution because of the community, because of the people that care, because of your peers, and these are folks that want to help you, and will also turn to you for you to help them. Right? It's not just you're getting all this help. You are going to also be that person that's going to help others, and that can be very, very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's easy, right? I mean, there's this sweet spot, right, when you do all of these things well over time. And we work with students and alums that come back and they say, my WPI education, my experience was transformational, and they're coming back with a group of peers, and they know other people, and they were able to connect, as they look for jobs, with networks, but we want to work with you in a developmental way, right? We do these sessions because we know that you're going to be transitioning to a new environment We're going to have a new student orientation program. We have advisors that are going to assist you. Faculty are going to be reaching out to you. And that's the first thing, right, is getting to campus. If you're coming to campus, moving your stuff in. If you are off campus, like Dean Heinricher said, there's virtual support, and it can be as simple as how should you set up your home space so you can be successful. Do you need help scheduling activities? We've got peers that we hire in our area that can help you with kind of utilizing tools, because we don't want you to be spending time on things that are unnecessary, in that regard. And I think there's some aspects to campus, and while it'd be very, very different in the fall in some ways, you may be taking an online course, and there might be the typical time that you would walk across campus and walk back. Maybe you're in the library or in your room. You can use that time maybe to connect with a peer, grab something to eat if you can do that. So there is opportunities of time savings, but we do also want you to get out of your room, because there's a value in seeing someone across campus and saying hello and saying, oh, let's meet up later, or whatever that may look like, for you. So it's a good mix. If you are online, we're going to have lots of intentional support designed specifically for you, but we also want you to be that advocate to reach out to us.
Okay.
And usually we do a chant, but I can't hear anyone. So go to class, do the work, ask for help. We are here to help you along the way, whatever that may look like.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up really quickly here. This is the Earl Bridge, which Christine, I believe is it August 31st? The class of 2024 will cross this bridge. This is symbolically your entrance to the WPI community. I like showing this picture because this was taken by Ivan Melnikov, who graduated 2 years ago. So the students do a lot of interesting things here, including we have an amazing photography club. So Christine, I think they're ready. What do you think?
Absolutely. Art and Paul, thank you so much for sharing these words with everyone. I haven't seen any questions in the chat, and I think at this point we'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have. So feel free to enter those in the chat at this time. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to get your thoughts together.
We just rolled over them. It was just too much.
A lot of great stuff. So one question that just entered the chat is the session being recorded? It is both being streamed live on YouTube, and it is going to be recorded. And it's also going to be posted to the NSO Canvas site. You all should have received an email with a link to that site. And I would encourage everyone to take a look. It's got some great videos, including welcomes. There are calendars with programs. There is different resources for you to review. All of this is to help prepare you for your transition to WPI and to get you ready for orientation and the start of the academic year. There is another question that just came up, and are all freshman lectures in asynchronous?
The answer is no. Some are synchronous and some are asynchronous. This is something where, so if you're in a class and you've got lectures which are online, you're going to have to check your syllabus carefully to see which policy your faculty are following. In particular, they're trying to put together synchronous lectures where they want to engage the students and there's a connection. But we also recognize we have students who will be in Singapore taking the same class. So it will vary from class to class. Make sure you find out what your professor's policy is.
Great, thank you. Speaking of policies, would one of you be able to speak a little bit about what the policy is regarding NRing a class and how that might impact merit scholarships or scholarships in general?
You want to take that one, Paul?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, and without going into too much details, normally students take 12 courses. It might be a little bit less depending if you're doing semester-long courses in an academic year. And students are at least allowed to NR one course without it affecting merit scholarships in any way. If students NR more courses, there's then typically a small decrease in the merit scholarship. But what I want to say is I work with a team and we work as a group. If you have some struggles, we've got plenty of people that can help you on the front end. But we also are typically very, very flexible and very supportive of students that have had multiple struggles, and they explain about keeping your merit scholarship. We want you to graduate WPI, right? So we are not punitive in that sense. But we also want you to graduate WPI, so there's expectations of moving along. So if at any point you have NRs in multiple courses, you'll have an advisor that can advise you. We have financial aid counselors, so there'll be lots of support to go over your specific circumstances and also how to rectify it and get back on track.
So I see one about when will Canvas be active? And it's connected to, there's a question earlier about when will the syllabus be available? This depends on when the faculty publish it. So the faculty are working and setting those up and publishing them now. All I can say about that is, if you go to Canvas, you have access to Canvas as soon as you have your WPI ID. What actually gets published and when it gets published will depend on the faculty member in the course. The library will be open. It has reduced capacity just because of social distancing. The gym will be open for students only. So one of the things that the faculty and staff just found out is students get to use the gym, but they do not. So Paul, I just thought this could be the first time you're hearing it. I don't know.
That's okay. I get up early in the morning, and so I'm okay for my running.
There was a question about can labs be virtual? There are examples of virtual labs. It really depends on the discipline. There are required labs in, for instance, biomedical engineering, where you actually have to do surgery. That cannot be done virtually. So again, it varies from case to case. Chemistry is requiring that you be in the lab. I have a feeling that there's some experience that every student has to have in which they have to pay for broken laboratory glassware during their college career sometime. That's an important part of the lab experience. I think I've just danced around a bunch of them, Christine. Can you help bring us back to reality here?
Sure. There was one other question about would cameras be required for students if they're doing online courses?
That I don't know. I think it would probably depend on the course and Art, you may know more about the testing, if a camera is required, but depending on software that we're using. But it depends on the interaction that will be required. And of course, if there's any software, we're able to, I think, assist and help students,
I think the answer is basically yes. Most of the examples that I know of, either we're using a system called HonorLock for testing in some courses. In other scenarios, the faculty are just doing what they call Zoom exams. So if you're not on campus, if you're definitely remote, then that is something to check in specifically with your professors. There's a question there about physics labs. Will they be virtual? The answer there is no, but they're doing, there's a mixture. So what the physics department has done is they've taken some of the labs which can be done virtually and made them virtual. And then the rest of them they are doing in Olin Hall.
There was a few questions about kind of Canvas and syllabi for classes. Normally, these get updated just a couple of days before the term begins. And so faculty typically use Canvas. Not all of them would use Canvas, but that's where you would expect to see the syllabus posted for each course, possibly some announcements, also the expectations of the course and and maybe the format. But in some ways, this is not that much different than every term. Is that normally when students come back, this is when they find out about the course. It's usually the first day of the term or a couple of days beforehand. But certainly I understand there's kind of more of a need this year about synchronous and asynchronous, but they will be getting updated. And some faculty may reach out to you in the next few weeks, but the majority will be a day or two before the term begins.
Yeah, one of the challenges right now is that the summer term classes end this Friday. So there are some of the faculty that you will have in a term are finishing up a class right now. And so they're still working on that old Canvas site.
There were some questions in the chat also. I know we mentioned that the library would be open and available, but could we talk maybe a little bit about what group space work might look like, whether that's in the library or other spaces on campus?
So I'll start off on that, Paul. You can correct me, but there is a lot of small group workspace in the library that is reservable, that you can book. And I'm not exactly sure what, I believe they're putting together a new system to allow students to make those kind of reservations. The library itself has a limited capacity, but they are not in the sense that they're going to count the number of people who go in and then lock the doors when they hit the limit. So the bottom line is going to be that the library does have limited capacity. They are just simply removing some of the workspaces, so there will not be a place to sit down. We are adding some additional study spaces in things like Alden Hall, which normally would be, it's one of the largest open spaces on campus. That will be study space. If you come to campus now, one of the things that you'll see is strange is there are tents popping up around campus. So we're setting up a lot of outdoor space. So have I completely forgotten the original question, Christine, or did I actually answer it?
I think you did answer it.
As a professor, which usually is you talk until the students are completely exhausted and then we move on. I see, will there be security at the Hampton Inn? It's being treated exactly like a residence hall. So. The new light, I don't know.
Could you talk maybe a little bit about when students officially declare majors or minors?
Well, certainly we ask all students to have declared a major by the end of the fall, and I will say that normally about 50% of students declare a different major than what was on their admissions materials. So for those of you who are thinking, I have no idea what I'm going to do, you're okay. You're actually in a large group of students. So, well, we try to at least have you declare by the end of the fall so we can assign you to a faculty advisor in your major so you can connect with them. But we do work with students even beyond the fall that change their major or want to do something different. Minors are the same. I think they typically would get declared later after the students have taken a number of courses in the minor and have decided that this is what they want to do.
Yeah, I don't want to actually encourage this because the registrar would shoot me, but we see minors declared 3 days before commencement when students realize they actually accidentally got a minor. So don't plan that way though, please.
Being recorded, Art, you're going to be on the internet forever, you know.
Now, if students are placed on a wait list for a core class like physics and A-term, will they get a physics class even if they don't make the wait list? Or I guess what is that wait list and what does that process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it really kind of gets into a larger conversation about scheduling. You know, we are working with obviously the whole class to finalize courses, and there's been some changes, and I've reached out to a number of students about possible changes, and I will say, and I want to say thank you to the incredible flexibility for students about possibly changing a time of a class. I mean, just absolutely wonderful for our students to be so flexible. So, you know, if a physics course has an opening and the department are able to add the student, of course, we're able to do that. Most majors don't necessarily require that you start with physics. Some may in the fall, but you may also be able to take it in the spring. And so I want to say that when there is capacity, we will rework your schedule, we'll work with you to try and fit the course. But there are also going to be real capacities, right? So we're not going to be able to over-enroll courses because there's room capacity, but there might be online options. So if you're really interested in taking physics in the fall, and let's say the capacity is full for in-person, there may be an option for you to take that online. So we have some flexibility even within the curriculum to do that kind of stuff.
So Christine, what else you got there?
I'm trying to scan through. People are asking some really great questions. Kind of going or keeping on the waitlist topic, if there are some students who are waitlisted for classes, is there any way that those capacities are going to be increased due to being online, or should they be looking for classes that have available spots at this time?
Paul, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both of us, or then maybe you can talk about kind of the faculty kind of role and what they expect from a course, and then maybe like why courses are at 20 or 50 or 100. It is possible, and so it's going to kind of vary by the course and by how it's being taught and if it's online. So obviously the theoretical idea is that if a course is online, then it doesn't need a room, so it can increase to, well, infinity, right, if we want. But there's other constraints, right? We want to make sure we can get your course graded, assignments. Is there support from the faculty? Do they have a TA or PLA? Because we also want to make sure you get the support you need to be successful in the course, because there's not going to be 10 faculty members for the course. There's going to be one, and there's going to be expectations that they can deliver, so you can learn the course. So.
I'm trying to see if there's any academic questions. I know folks have put in some student life questions, which we can certainly answer and get to. I just want to make sure we're taking advantage of having the expertise of our presenters here.
You're very generous with that term. Thank you.
Are there any other academic-based questions that folks have?
So I'll piggyback on the waitlist question for just a minute, I think, because there are a few of them there. So what actually happens fairly soon is what we do is we freeze the wait lists. We let the faculty know which students are on the wait list, and then they make decisions to give students priority off that wait list. The bottom line is, and has always been at WPI, you will get the courses you need. I can guarantee that. I can't guarantee you'll get the classes you always want when you want. You may not get the times you always want, but in general, the faculty are very flexible and very supportive in helping students get what they need to move forward on their programs. So some classes are still listed partially because we've got everything still frozen while we're rebuilding the schedules. So some of you have probably already had your classes moved around a little bit. If you registered for Calc 3 back in the start of the summer, your course schedule now looks very different. So it might be the same time, but it actually might not be. I think, Paul, you said like 164 students in Calc 3 had to be moved in some way.
Yeah, and we had 180 students that responded to the survey, and so you can understand how incredible that helped us, to be able to move students based on what they wanted. And so and it helps everyone. It helps the students, helps the faculty, helps the whole community to get a schedule that works during these times. So
we have a couple questions about physical education classes and what they'll look like remotely, and then also since sports have been impacted to some degree for the fall, what might students be looking for PE credit if they were planning on participating in those sports that have been impacted?
So what I can do on that is I've seen the plan from the physical education department. I guess what the best thing might be to collect that information and post it in a place for the first year students, Paul. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, Art. Yeah.
So we will save these questions, and in particular, I'll collect the responses from the specific departments. There was a question about the furniture and the triples and the doubles. I think the extra furniture was taken out. So that's my understanding.
Bruce, too.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to volunteer me for another job, Art. So I'm
the same thing.
I'm thankful.
Actually, there was another question too about if a student ends up finding that class might be too difficult, what does a course transfer system look like? Maybe you could talk about the add drop period.
Paul, you start on that?
Go ahead. So we do have what we call an add drop period for the first 10 days of each term, where students can make changes to their schedule. Certainly in the first week, they can do it themselves. The second week, they need professors' support. In a 7-week term, we really would advise you not to be making too many changes even in the second week, but certainly even in the first week of the term. But you may go into a course, for some reason it may not work. You may have thought it was about this, and for some reason you're interested in something else. You can work with an advisor. We can help you rearrange your schedule based on availability of classes, and make sure that your schedule is all set. So we do work a lot with students in the first week or two. The advising office, we will be doing kind of our add drop through a Zoom drop-in process. So you'll be able to connect with an advisor remotely during our regular business hours. We will have people on campus, and that'll be by appointment only, but we will have a process for supporting you so you can do some problem solving. Maybe you get off a wait list, or maybe you want to add a different course.
The only thing I would add is there are some, I'll just call them some obvious courses where, let's say you sign up for the accelerated Introduction to Computer Science course. Maybe you signed up for Calc 1 or Calc 3, but you want to fall back to Calc 2 or Calc 1. In situations like that, we can usually stretch that add drop period a little bit.
Yeah.
And depending on the course, like in computer science, they have let students fall back from the accelerated to the standard Intro to CS course as late as halfway through the term. So there are some exceptional cases like that, usually where there's an obvious course you're dropping back to, where you've stretched, you've taken an accelerated version of a course, and now you just, it's just too accelerated. So there are some special cases like that. Good questions. This is actually more fun than doing it in Harrington, Paul, because we never got questions in Harrington.
No. Well, it's tough to ask them out loud, right?
Yep. Especially when you haven't slept all night.
Yeah. Somebody asked about professors' art, and they're showing up as to be announced right now. What's kind of any idea of when that will be posted, at least for a term, or when it's typically posted?
In some situations, that's happening because you're in, let's say, the Calc 3 class. There is a lecturer who's assigned. You also have a conference, and the conference is being led by a TA. So there isn't an instructor assigned to that yet, and there won't be. So in some situations, it boils down to that you've actually got multiple sections or multiple meetings attached to the same class, and there's only really the one primary instructor of record. In other situations, it really is that the instructor hasn't been assigned yet. It's pretty rare right now. So the bottom line is, just do me a favor. My email is heinrich@WPI. If you drop me an email and you say which class it is, I can look into it. Or you can email Paul, P. Riley @WPI. I'll give you your cell phone later, Paul.
Yeah, you can do that, my social security number too. And I think, as certainly courses like calculus, for example, they may affect, the vast majority of first-year students, and that's what the department is working through. So certainly you can see TPA, and I did like someone's comment. They said they're teaching a lot of classes. They must be an amazing professor. So
I've been wanting to hire, I've been looking for a new faculty member who has those initials for years, and we just haven't been able to find them.
I do know that there's been a couple of questions that folks have asked that have to just do quickly with IDs. All students will get your IDs when you arrive on campus to move into your residence hall. If you're a commuter student, you will receive those when you arrive on the 30th for your on-campus orientation day. Also, if people are looking for dining information about reservations, I actually just posted more information to the NSO Canvas page today. Dining Services did provide some flyers about the Microsoft booking system, so I would encourage everyone to check those out.
Yeah, and the Goat's Head is open.
And the campus center is going to open too. And Dunkin' Donuts is getting a really snazzy upgrade. So everyone should be very excited. You all are coming to us at the right time. There maybe one final question, knowing that we're wrapping up, coming to the close of the hour. There was a question about where students can purchase their textbooks for classes and when they should do that.
Yeah, I mean, the bookstore or online, they will have the updated materials for each course typically posted. This should be getting posted now or the next few weeks. Certainly, it is one of those decisions about, where do you want to purchase it, right? So you may be able to go on and get the list and, look online, or you may want to get any custom materials through the bookstore, or you may be able to rent them. So, certainly going on, looking at your classes, I would say, give it a little bit of time, and I want to just be kind of mindful of the cost of books, but also that things may change in the next week or two in regards to if you're changing a course time or it's a different section of a course, to wait until at least you're really confident on your courses for the fall before you buy your textbooks, even though there's usually a return policy, but just want to be thoughtful of that.
I did see also a couple of questions about the policy regarding leaving campus.
Sure. I can touch on that. I mean, we certainly want to encourage students to stay on campus as much as possible, because certainly when you leave, that does potentially, leave you open for being exposed to different folks and coming back on campus, but you certainly are able to leave and go grab your groceries. I believe Campus Police provides a shuttle to the grocery store on Saturdays. So leaving campus will be something that, you are allowed to do. Visitors will not be allowed on campus. So that would be something that I think I also saw in the chat as well. They're not going to be allowed in residence halls or in campus buildings.
If you're living on campus, you're being tested twice a week. Commuter students, we have some students who are commuting from home. So that sort of says we have a group of students who are leaving campus every day. So they are being tested through the same protocol.
Mm-hmm. And I would also encourage folks to also look at the We Are WPI website, because there's a lot of great information, FAQs for you to review, and would answer a lot of questions that folks might have as well. But we will try to connect with everybody that we have contact information for. So if you've noticed that potentially your last name is not in the chat and your question didn't get answered in the chat, if you want to repost with your first and last name, we can make sure that we follow up with everyone with the questions that weren't answered today. But I certainly want to thank Dean Heinricher for being here, as well as Paul Riley, our Assistant Dean of Student Success. I know we all are looking forward to welcoming you to campus in just a couple of weeks.
I'm showing off my...
You're snazzy. Go.
You are showing off, right? I've just got the standard blue one, so I'll have to purchase one of those. So
it's making everybody jealous.
Yeah.
So Max Onproy is on the Zoom chat here. Max knows who makes these kind of masks.
Cool.
Perfect.
I'm looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Andy.
And thank you, Andy, for being behind the scenes, making it all happen.
My pleasure.
Remember, Maydong gets a PhD in only 1 year, right?
Yep.
First student on, so